The first thing anyone noticed was the silence. Not the usual quiet of a hospital wing at midnight, but a heavy, suffocating stillness, the kind that comes just before something breaks. Machines hummed, fluorescent lights flickered faintly, and somewhere down the corridor, a patient's monitor beeped in an uneven rhythm. And in the middle of it all stood a woman no one had ever really looked at twice, until that moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the hidden strength within ordinary people, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us that we never truly know who someone is, or what they've survived. Her name was Rebecca Hale. To most of the staff at St. Andrew's Medical Center in Norfolk, Virginia, she was just another nurse. Early 30s, quiet, always punctual, always composed. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple bun, her uniform neat but unremarkable. She spoke softly, smiled politely, and kept to herself. In a hospital full of loud personalities and egos, Rebecca blended into the background like she preferred it that way. But people noticed things. They noticed how she never flinched during emergencies, how her hands never trembled even when chaos erupted in the trauma bay. They noticed how she worked double shifts without complaint, how she stayed longer than required, and how she avoided personal conversations. Some admired her. Others dismissed her as cold or distant. And a few, like Dr. Travis Monroe, mistook her silence for weakness. Travis was the kind of doctor who filled every room he entered. Confident, loud, and often dismissive of those he deemed beneath him, he had a habit of underestimating people. Rebecca was no exception. He'd make offhand comments about her being too quiet to handle real pressure, or joke with interns that she probably chose nursing because it was safe. Rebecca never responded. Not once. She simply continued her work, steady and precise. But that night was different. A multi-vehicle accident had flooded the ER with critical patients. Stretchers lined the halls, voices overlapped in urgency, and the staff moved like a storm trying to contain itself. Blood, panic, and time, all colliding at once. Rebecca moved through it all with her usual calm, assisting, stabilizing, anticipating needs before they were spoken. Then a patient came in, male, mid-40s, severe trauma, barely conscious. The room tightened with tension. Dr. Monroe took charge, barking orders, but something was off. The patient's vitals were erratic in a way that didn't quite fit the visible injuries. Rebecca noticed. She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing slightly, her focus sharpening. There was a pattern, something subtle, something most would miss. But before she could speak, Travis waved her off, too caught up in his own momentum. Minutes passed, and the patient's condition worsened rapidly. Confusion turned into urgency. Alarms began to scream. And then Rebecca moved. It wasn't loud or dramatic at first. She simply stepped forward, her voice calm but firm, cutting through the noise with an authority no one had heard from her before. She pointed out the inconsistency, suggested an internal complication that hadn't been considered. Her words were precise, direct, undeniable. Travis hesitated, just for a second, but in a crisis, a second is everything. The team pivoted. What followed was a blur of controlled chaos. Rebecca took a more central role without asking permission, guiding actions, predicting complications, staying 2 steps ahead of the situation. There was no arrogance in her tone, no hesitation, just clarity. And then it happened. In the rush, as she leaned over to assist, the edge of her towel, draped loosely over her shoulder, slipped. It fell just enough to reveal the chain around her neck. A small, worn set of tags slid into view, catching the harsh hospital light. At first, no one paid attention. But Travis did. His eyes locked onto the tags. Recognition flickered, followed by disbelief. They weren't decorative. They weren't sentimental trinkets. They were military identification, engraved, official, unmistakable. And not just any. U.S. Navy SEAL commander. The room didn't stop, but something shifted. Travis stared, his mind racing, trying to reconcile the quiet nurse he dismissed with the reality staring back at him. Rebecca didn't acknowledge it. She didn't cover the tags or explain them. She simply kept working, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Under her guidance, the team stabilized the patient. The correct diagnosis was confirmed, and the necessary intervention was executed just in time. What could have been another loss became a narrow save. When it was over, the room exhaled. Rebecca stepped back, her composure returning to its usual quiet state. She adjusted her uniform, the tags now hidden again, and began cleaning up as if she had merely done her job, nothing more. But the silence that followed her was different from before. It wasn't dismissive. It was filled with awe. Word spread quickly, as it always does in places like that. Questions surfaced, whispers traveled, and pieces of a story began to form. Rebecca Hale wasn't just a nurse. She had served in some of the most elite operations in the world. Years in environments where hesitation meant death. Where calm wasn't a trait, it was survival. And then, one day, she had walked away from it all. No headlines. No explanations. Just, quiet. In the days that followed, the way people looked at her changed. There was respect now, and curiosity, and a touch of something deeper, humility. Even Travis Monroe found himself unable to meet her eyes the same way. The joke stopped. The assumptions faded. But Rebecca remained unchanged. She still arrived early. Still worked silently. Still treated every patient with the same level of care and focus. She never corrected anyone who got her wrong, never brought up her past, never sought recognition. Because for her, it was never about being seen. It was about being useful. About showing up when it mattered. About saving lives, no matter the title she wore. One evening, as the hospital settled into its usual rhythm, Travis approached her quietly. There was no audience, no ego in his posture. Just a man trying to find the right words. Rebecca listened, nodded once, and offered a small, understanding smile. No judgment. No resentment. Just acceptance. And in that moment, Travis understood something he hadn't before. Strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it stands quietly in the corner, doing the work no one else can. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that people are more than what they seem. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. And before we reach the end, tell us in the comments, have you ever underestimated someone, or been underestimated yourself? Because the truth is, the world is full of Rebecca Hales. People carrying stories, battles, and strength we may never fully see. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one slip, one reveal, to remind us just how wrong we can be. But also, how beautiful it is to learn.